O'Rourke.
First does support this bill. We see it, especially Part 1, as another very welcome step forward in the emerging movement to do more to support and consider the rights and needs of the victims of crime. And that movement appears to me to have the support of all of the parties of the House, because we all do want to see that the victims of crime are better supported and considered than they have been in the past. So we welcome especially Part 1 of this bill. And New Zealand First also supports the amendments in SOP 424 for the same reasons. Mr. Chairman, I especially wanted to commend Clause 10 concerning 16 to ensure that reference to all of a victim's contact details, as are now listed in the bill, would be restricted to ensure the privacy of the victim. And that, of course, adds very greatly to a victim's sense of security and privacy, while allowing them the opportunity to take a full part in the process. It's a minor amendment, but it's a very important amendment for victims for those reasons. I also wanted to refer briefly to the new Section 17, which actually requires a prosecutor to find out from any victim all relevant information about the victim's injuries, property loss or damage, and other effects of the offence, so that that can be taken into account for sentencing and presumably reparation purposes. The words used are that the prosecutor must, quote, make all reasonable efforts, unquote, and that puts the onus on the prosecutor to find out the necessary details so that they can be taken proper account of in the process in the court. And that means, of course, that the prosecutor has to be proactive, which was not a requirement in the past. It relied on the victim themselves to make sure that those details were provided, and of course they not always were. So I think it's a very important, again, a relatively minor improvement, but a very important improvement to the legislation, so that the necessary details actually do get before the court, and that's as it should be. So New Zealand First is very happy indeed to see that particular provision in the bill. The information to be sought is actually set out in the new Section 17(1)(a), and it refers to, in A, any physical injury or emotional harm suffered by the victim through or by means of the offence, and in B, any loss of or damage to property suffered by the victim through or by means of the offence, and in C, any other effects of the offence on the victim, and lastly in D, any other matter consistent with the purpose of victim impact statements as set out elsewhere in the legislation. I think this is a particularly good provision. It's comprehensive and it does the job. The value of these amendments, Mr. Chairman, is that they put the victims first, and that's what New Zealand First has argued for a number of years. The rights and interests of victims have for far, far too long been secondary to the process of convicting the offender. And now we are seeing more and more this movement by which the effects on the victim are being taken more and more account of, and real and practical means are being put in place to make sure that they are supported and that their rights are protected. So for all of those reasons, Mr. Chairman, New Zealand First is particularly pleased to be able to support Part 1 of this bill, as it does the bill as a whole.
Call Scott Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Chairman of the Justice and